Hello, good timing. Namaste.
Namaste.
Nice to see you.
You have a furry, comfy background there.
I do. It's very nice. My sheepskin.
Yeah, good place for a cat to curl up.
Yeah. Hmm. So, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, we're celebrating having together read the entire Song of Ribu, which is an epic,
It's
an
pretty
epic
good.
tome. Yeah, it's 43 chapters, 44 chapters, and the little
Mm,
coda
mm,
afterwards. And it's according to David G, who first introduced it, it's the direct teaching of Shiva,
mm,
and it's in the form of Ribu talking to Nadaga and the assembled sages about what happened when he met Shiva.
I always say it's the just the most direct. It's the most direct teaching I know. It's very similar to any kind of non-dual teaching. It's just pointing you to the truth of who you are and saying you're not this, you're not that, you're not this, you're not that. It doesn't exist. All these things we think exists, it doesn't exist. But somehow it's just so direct. There's nothing else in there. There's no like how to's. Well, the only how to I would say is, and you can add to this because maybe I'm forgetting something, but the only how to is to be absolutely sure that you're Brahman and everything that appears is Brahman. Like have the certitude. It says that over and over
Hmm.
again. So just have that certitude. And I don't know. I love it. I don't think it's for like a lot of people because I think a lot of people we kind of need how to's because we're so addicted to our minds. But like I don't think that's not for lots of people. I think many people could use it if they have somebody to maybe ask questions to or something. Like someone, I don't know, kind of I don't know, someone who they feel like understands what the teaching is. So they could ask a question just to, because I just think the human mind wants to ask questions and wants to clarify. And we're not really, even though like it's totally enough, like the teaching in there is totally enough if you let it into your heart. But I don't know, most people aren't just ready to just drop everything straight away. Like if someone just comes and tells you, even if it's God himself, like you are Brahman, you are God, you are all that is. It's like most people aren't going to go, okay, great. Don't have to worry about anything anymore now. That's, even though that's what you can do. And that is a kind of something that happens when you read this text, I feel. Like there is a kind of a loosening up, like you often say, like you just kind of have a kind of a feeling of relief or something. And I think that can happen. But most of us, it might be just momentary or something.
There are more than 1,500 verses. It mentions later the exact number. I forget it, but
Uh-huh.
1,500 is definitely less than the total. It's either 16 or 1,900. Why don't I
Mm,
read one of them to give
an idea.
people a taste? Yeah, and then we can
Please,
perhaps there's
please.
something more to be said about that.
Yeah, sure.
Your true nature is always the undivided, non-dual Brahman, which is a mass of being, consciousness, bliss, motionless, ancient, still, eternal, without attributes, without confusion, without sheaths, without parts, without impurity, completely free from any illusion of duality, full, peerless, and the one. just saying that, just reading it feels like prayer somehow.
Yeah, and it is like those words are totally pointing to our heart. And I think words aren't for nothing. Like everything that appears is not for nothing. It has everything has its purpose. And these kind of words bring you straight into your heart
Mm.
if you're open to that. I don't like adding extra things like that, really, if you're open to that, they have the potential, you could say. And they do it for me. That's all I know. I don't know. They do it for me. And I know Ramana said, he was often talking about chapter 26 for some reason. Apparently, that's very good from his perspective. But he said like to read chapter 26. I think he was only talking about that chapter, but to read it and to just listen to it really brings you into that state that they're talking about. And through all the time that we were reading together, I definitely feel that. It doesn't matter how you turn up to a meeting. Often I'm very busy. Like we meet at 4 o'clock in the day. Hold on for one moment. Sorry about that. So what was I saying? Yeah, like so on we often meet on at this time, 4 o'clock in the middle of the day for me. So often I can be very busy, doing things before and rushing around. But then you just get here and then read these words, read them or listen to them both the same. And then it's like, yes. But I don't think it's so much about the state. I wouldn't like to encourage that way of thinking so much that you have to experience a certain state, even though maybe like ultimately, ultimately, of course, like that verse that you just read, it's really pointing to your true nature. And it does kind of induce a certain state in the human. But I feel like it's more just, at least from my perspective, how I see now today. Might be different in a few years' time. You can say if it's different for you. But I feel like to recognize that it does induce a certain state in the human experience, but yet the human experience is, it's part of the changeful world and it's changing all the time. So I don't think that we should expect it to induce that state the whole time just because we have that recognition, even in our hearts and our minds. I think it's kind of a growing thing. Like maybe you can experience it more and more and more, and we do seem to experience it more and more and more. But I don't feel like these teachings are for that. I think if you experience something beautiful, like grace or love or whatever you think is good, like we can just be grateful for that. And it's like, oh yeah, it's good. But not to feel like we have to have it or need it. I feel like these kind of teachings are more beneficial in a practical way. Like we can actually deal with the challenges and all that come up because that's how most of us are in the world is we have different challenges, and we all have like conditioning. I don't know about all. All have at least had conditioning. Um, so I think the teaching is more for that, not to bring us to an ultimate state forever and ever. Although that's there too. That is there too. But like if we to just recognize the truth of who we are is beyond all states. I feel like that's enough. And then if anything else has to happen to see it's out of our hands. It's like if I don't know, the words that are coming. It's like if the creator of the universe wants that to happen, or if it's the will of God or whatever you want to see it, like then those things can happen, but it doesn't really matter so much or something.
Just to underline what you're saying about states, no,
Yeah.
Nome, who worked on the translation
Mm,
here, this is the Tamil version we're reading, and it's
mm,
from the Ribu Gita, but because it's aligned or arranged in 8-line verses,
mm,
it's now called the Song of Ribu, And
Mm,
Nome was very clear to point out that we're not talking about a mental state here.
mm,
And that's very much in line, I think, with you're saying the truth of who you are. So
mm,
we're referring to the awareness in which the states
mm.
appear.
Yeah. And not even a mental state, but there's also states that are not mental states
Ah,
as
right.
well. So any kind of state, like I don't know, this is how I think of it. Like for me, like a state is anything that you're experiencing. So you could be, we all know the mental state of stress. So there's probably lots of different types of mental states. But then there's even a state, you could be in a state of devotion, and like you're feeling lots of love and all, but it's still a state because you're experiencing something. So in a way, for me, or the way I understand like different states, a state is an experience. So really it's beyond an experience, even though we're always going to have some kind of experience, even if you're experiencing space or emptiness, it's still an experience kind of.
I will say I kind of like that one though. Love
Yeah,
and devotion. I do kind of like those.
yeah, we tend to be partial towards those ones. Yeah. But it's very troublesome if you get attached to them.
Yeah.
It's like that's one of the main teachings in a lot of spirituality, isn't it? Like attachment.
Mm.
Like I don't know if I could do a big talk about attachment or something. Like what is attachment? I don't know. I don't know what is attachment and non-attachment. But I do know that like if you hold on to some ideas or if you grasp onto something or expect things, that it doesn't feel good. And it's also not very practical. It's not very practical in the world because nothing really does stay the same. Or like I haven't experienced life ever to be the same. Like that's almost, you can say, like the nature of life is that it continues to change. Although, like what you said, in the words, I can't remember now exactly, but there was something about stillness. I
Mm.
don't think it used the word stillness, but something like an unmoving nature. I don't know what it was.
There you've got a mass of being, consciousness, bliss, motionless, ancient,
Motionless. Yeah.
still, eternal, without attributes.
Yeah. So obviously that's beyond all the moving, changing nature.
And um, although the word Brahman is used, um, we can maybe think of it as awareness, consciousness, God,
Mm,
and we're frequently referring to it
yeah.
as if, and this in itself, I think maybe you want to address this because it's um, not a thing. As soon as it's called that, you've sort of
Mm.
filtered it through the mind and made a thing out of it, and now you can refer to it as that, which
Mm,
is only partially correct.
yeah. I always thought it was funny to say that. Like it's almost like because that kind of in English feels like it's over there. But if you say this, then this feels closer, like this. And somehow you kind of point to your heart, this. I like sometimes talking with Eshan, about these kind of things because you have to make it really simple, you know, like because sometimes like it's not like I'm speaking satsang stuff to him all the time or anything, but sometimes it comes up because, you know, I was in satsang with him the other day and he was like, what's he saying? So then I was kind of trying to simplify what happens in satsang.
Mm,
So you really have to simplify it. So, and even then I was pointing to the heart, and kind of saying, but it's not like the physical heart that beats, so you have to kind of, it's kind of good practice for me to speak very simply to a child.
mm,
I
mm.
know, but it doesn't really matter. I don't think we should get so caught up in the words like this or that, or I don't know. It really matters so much.
Well, to have um, read through the entire volume here is it's just such a there's a just real sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
The desire really is just to start over and every single day pick a chapter. I've got a I've got one more, at least one. I basically, in preparation for this conversation, I marked
Mm.
out 4 verses.
Can I say
And
something before you read?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The next, just when you're there. I think I'm not really sure now because we started. I think we've been reading it for like a year and a half or something. So I kind of think there was a change like during it, like because in the beginning we maybe didn't read every single verse.
Correct.
And I don't know, I think you're a much better student than I am. Like you come prepared, I just kind of turn up. I don't know what's gonna happen. I just turn up like, okay, here we are. But that's pretty good. So from my perspective, at least I turned up every week. But I just see a kind of a change, like that it got a little bit more like I don't want to skip any verses
Right.
anymore, and maybe it got a little bit, I don't know, I tend to talk a lot, but I like to imagine that I started to talk less, but that might just be an imagination. I don't
Well, no, my sense of it is there was more reading and less editorializing. But that being said, um, it's like, a delicious bowl of fresh fruit, and you're just
know.
sprinkling a little sugar on top. It was really,
Mm.
really delightful.
Mm.
Delightful to have your commentary all through.
Mhm.
You read the first chapter by yourself. Actually, it was chapters 1 and 2 after we
Mhm.
started meeting,
Mhm.
and then we proceeded there from um, chapters 3 onward. And to your point exactly, it wasn't until we got into the upper 20s that we
Mm.
read every verse from every chapter.
Oh, okay.
And it was either, I believe it was Guru Purnima Day, which I believe is July, and it was July
Mm.
of 2020.
Oh, okay.
So we probably started meeting April, well, maybe May of 2020.
Mhm.
Here's one more, and this is from chapter 26. Um, and without introduction, that by realizing which and in the bliss of which all other joys appear to be the joys of that after realizing which with very firm certitude as oneself, nothing else will in the least be something apart. That by realizing which with very firm certitude as oneself, all kinds of individuals, beings, lives will attain liberation, ever abide in bliss, without a trace of a concept, in that itself, as that itself.
I feel very sure that recognizing that which you just spoke about, that this, by recognizing that or this, I kind of feel like, or like I said, I'm sure that that's enough. I feel like that's totally enough. Well, I know like many people have different opinions about this, but really, I really think it's enough because the only reason why it would not be enough is if the recognition is not really there in the moment. It's like maybe the recognition happened 5 minutes ago or a week ago or something, and then you just have it as an idea, but you're not kind of actually recognizing it in the moment. So then it seems like we can need certain tools or guidance or help to bring us back to that recognition. And I think that's where it's really just getting caught up in the mind, you know, like, and it's the same thing. Like I know I say it like in a real simplistic kind of way. It's just getting caught up in the mind, but it kind of really is, like if we really want to, I think just be peaceful. Like that's all it has to start with or be really like, and I think everybody really wants that in their heart, no matter what they're searching for or seeking in life. We really just want to be peaceful. Um, I think we have to kind of recognize that the way we look for peace usually isn't working. It doesn't work. And sometimes it can seem to work like temporarily. So if you kind of recognize that, you recognize, okay, I'm not going to find it through the mind, then I don't really feel like it's difficult to drop the mind. I know it, yeah, maybe it is difficult. What did I hear before somewhere? I felt I heard something good, and it was something like it's, what was it? It was something like it's not difficult, but it's not easy or something. I wish I could find it. It was a different word. It wasn't just difficult and easy, but it was a different, it was a synonym of the same word. And it is quite like that, like, so it's not difficult to recognize the truth by dropping your mind, let's say, but to continuously choose that again and again. So, like in terms of the Song of Ribu, it would be just to be sure all the time. Like, and he does talk about all the time, like I don't know what words he uses now, but like the essence of it is like every single moment of every single day,
Mhm.
like without fail. And it can sound like a lot, but I actually think that is what's really needed, and that really doesn't mean that you're doing something every single minute of every single day. It really just means you're not engaging with the mind. That's it. Like. But then again, if you pick up the mind for a moment, like it's okay, it doesn't matter.
I think of this mental chattering, this constant display of memories and imagination and
Mm,
in whatever form, senses, sensations, internal dialogue, what have you.
mm,
It's um, uh, like in a way like a train. We say train of thought,
mm,
and that um, with the right attitude, exactly what you're speaking of. The train sort of separates, or it becomes just it's seen as part of the display
mm,
rather than something
yeah,
that's sort of carrying you. Yeah, and so
mm,
I think a lot of meditation is trying to bring us back to
mm,
this.
mm,
And I can feel myself smiling and little man tears welling up, and part of it is this feeling of being home, which must be exactly the feeling you have with Ananta and
yeah,
what you're carrying with you all the time.
mm, yeah. And that's really just your own heart, your own presence, like because we all really share the same
Yeah, I
presence.
for sure, for sure. And then feeling that is okay.
Mm,
The recognition sort of grants permission to one's being, if you will, to stop looking
mm,
in that train of thought for that.
yeah. Well, I think what happens to many of us, even after we recognize that we are our heart and it's the one heart, and we feel like so grateful and like a sense of relief, then like that train of thought comes and we think we kind of get fooled and think there's something in it for us. Or there's different ways of thinking about it, like sometimes it's like we have to sort something out, we need to do something about this. But really, our heart takes care of everything. And I feel like maybe the more we spend time as our heart, that kind of becomes more and more clear that actually that takes care of everything. And we really don't need to be working things out. Like even the things that can seem troublesome, like some conditioning maybe is more troublesome than others. Like we don't really seem to have a problem if it's just a thought appears in our head. Like we don't really have a problem with thoughts. Like we have a problem more when it's like a similar thing that has come up 1,000 times. Like maybe we feel like I have a thing that comes up sometimes where I don't like if I perceive that I'm being made wrong,
Mm,
like the person is like saying, no, you're wrong. Like basically. But it's usually not like so much like that. And maybe if it came up like that, I might be able to laugh about it. But it's usually more subtle than that. But that's the basis. And it can just bring up a kind of a like, oh, I'm wrong. And like there's some kind of like feeling there. So these are the things that usually cause us trouble, because something in us believes it. Because if you didn't believe it, it wouldn't really cause you trouble, so much. So, but even those things, because it's tempting. I think when those things come that we've seen 1,000 times, it's tempting to feel like, okay, I must be believing that I'm wrong, so I need to do something about this. I need to get to the bottom of this. But like, I really feel like to just even, and actually, especially right in the middle of it, I feel like it's really important. Like, right when it comes up, so someone in front of me and they're telling me I'm wrong. And then so I'm feeling it. But like, to just like, it's okay. I don't need to push the feeling away. I don't need to be afraid of it. Like, it's allowed to be here and I don't need to think about it. I don't need to, I don't even really need to recognize what it's saying, really. Like, if I do, then that's good, because I can maybe make it more conscious, but really to just recognize that it, like the Song of Ruby would say, it itself is Brahman
Mm,
or God. So that feeling, that person that triggered it is Brahman. This feeling is Brahman. And what it's appearing in is Brahman. All of that. So to kind of recognize all of that, it does, like, there is a relief in that. It's like, because then it's like, well, I don't have to do anything about anything. There's nothing to be done. It's like, it's nothing. There is quite a relief in that.
the relief is just, I would say looking back, that the overwhelming sense that, oh, these teachings have come into my heart is a sense of relief.
Mm,
Like, oh, I can put down that big bag of rocks and not
yeah,
have to pick it up again. Oh.
yeah.
Mm.
Mm,
So chapter 32 is the chapter that I first saw Amba, what is now 7 years ago,
mhm,
reading this on YouTube. And so,
And I think it was even longer than that I read it. I think it was about like 10 years ago now. Was it?
oh my, uh,
Maybe
I,
not. Maybe it was seven.
I, well,
Yeah.
I'm adding 2 years to the time I first saw it, and I think at that time it was 5 years old.
Okay.
So that's
A long
how I'm
time
doing
ago.
the math, but maybe you recorded it and then only later put it up on YouTube.
Okay.
But just to the experience for anyone watching, what it
Mhm.
was like was sort of um, seeing the universe talk to me. And just a moment ago, you said something about the person is Brahman, is awareness.
Mm,
I'm awareness. This context is awareness.
mm,
The actual feelings are and so what the teaching here is, and it comes across a number of different ways for sure, sort of different flavors of the same
mm,
thing. You were playing. It's not this. It's not this.
mm,
It's not this. It's only consciousness, and
mm.
that is myself. And that's been the sort of
Yeah.
the the training. But I wanted to pull something out of chapter 32. Ah, okay, it's got one of your favorite words in
I
it.
know. I know.
So this is verse 35 from chapter 32.
Mm,
As the mind arises in me, filled with consciousness, abides in me, filled with consciousness, and subsides in me, filled with consciousness, there is nothing of the mind apart from me, filled with consciousness. As there is no mind apart from me, filled with consciousness, there is nothing else that exists apart from me, full of consciousness. I, myself, filled with consciousness, am the beatitude. Contemplating thus, contemplating thus, become yourself the beatitude.
Supreme blessedness, isn't it? Isn't that what it is? Supreme blessedness. Is that what it is? Isn't it? Beatitude.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds very right. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
I
yeah.
really love that word because I feel like certain words really carry the essence of their meaning.
Ah, yeah.
I feel like so. I remember when I read this, at first it's like beatitude, and it's like something in you says yes, or something in me said like yes. And then I still had to look it up, like, what does it mean? And then it's like, yes, 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 supreme blessedness. Like, that's what we are, and we forget so easily. Like, we're living as if we're, I don't know, fragmented, a fragment. We're living as if we're like broken, dirty fragment. Like, we have all these kind of really poor ideas about ourselves, that live in us. You could say lives in consciousness, like poor ideas about ourselves. And that's really not true, you know. And even those poor ideas are really not what we take them to be. Like the way I said a minute ago, like the person in front of you is God, the bad feeling. If we have like a bad feeling, that's God as well. So also even the poor ideas in a way are God as well. Like I've been talking to a few people, for these podcasts, and really everyone's saying the same thing. They use different words, but instead of everything being Brahman, or everything being supreme blessedness, what's been coming up, which I also like that type of expression, is that everything is love.
Mm.
And if we recognize that, we can really be much more easily, much more easily open to everything. Because if something is appearing inside us and we experience it as bad, you know, we're not going to want to experience it. This is something bad or dirty or wrong, and I don't want it to be a part of me. Like, we're all familiar with something in us that's like this. But when we start to recognize that even this thing that we look at like that, actually, even this is love, even this that's appearing is supreme blessedness. So I think it makes us just less afraid to see everything that appears, whether it's seemingly in us as a sensation, or if it's displaying like in the world, you know. But even if it's something displaying in the world, it still has a reflection here. Because if there's something in the world, which there's plenty of things in the world all the time, but even especially right now, the world is a bit tumultuous. Is the word that's going. So like that makes it has a kind of an impact in most of us. Like what does that feel like? So this is the feeling that we can look at, and if we really know, even if we only know it as an idea, but we're open to that idea, that actually this feeling that's coming up that feels really hard to accept or something, actually that is supreme blessedness. It's beatitude, it's Brahman, it's God, it's yourself. So then you're not really afraid to look at that. And I think that's, I don't know, like in life, like when we seem to be in life, like when there seems to be a world appearing and there seems to be a life and all, I think that's the great kind of thing in these teachings, is that we don't have to run away from anything.
Mm.
I don't know if it's like so much about, like a lot of spiritual teachings are talking about a finality, you know, like that, beyond everything. And like I think that's okay and that's good. But I actually see the value in just like the right here and now. Like, and I think these kind of teachings, like not these kind of teachings, but just self-recognition, like to recognize your true nature. It's not what we thought it was. We're not just like a body mind. We're we're that or this or Brahman. And that just makes us not be afraid. We're not afraid of life. Or like I like the way Ananta says, like his kind of main teaching, I would say these days, is to just be open, like open to everything that is. And that really just means you're not running away from anything at all. Like everything is everything is welcome. Even that's an extra word. I think that you don't necessarily need.
You're talking about the end of suffering in a real way, and in each
Mm,
chapter here talks about transmigration as being sort of the ultimate the ultimate form of suffering, and
mm,
how um, really um, imbibing what's offered here
mm.
leads to the natural end
Yeah.
of that, and it's referred to as the shock of birth, and the pain and fear of death.
Mm,
Both the front end and the back end
mm,
of coming into a physical body.
mm,
That those really end because they're like it's arrogant of me to say but because they're seen as part of attachment to the body
mm.
mind. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember seeing you look up the word beatitude while you were reading this chapter, and an already blissful Amba got even more blissful.
Yeah. It's like we like to discover ourselves and to adding words is like, even though no word can really do it, somehow adding words or trying to add words and trying to explain, it's very joyful.
Hmm. Yeah.
Supreme blessedness is pretty good. Like words often do fail, I think, but some words don't. Maybe in another moment it would fail though.
It's like we're standing in the bakery. So what's there? Oh,
Mhm.
yeah. Okay. Supreme blessedness. Blessedness. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah.
I'll have that.
I'll have that.
I'll go with that. Yeah.
Or your
We don't
your
even have to
Amba's.
have it. It's like, yeah, I am that. Oh yeah,
There you go.
I am that. What? I am that and I'll have it. I'll have what I am. That's it. That's what spirituality is really all about. It's just like we've been taking what we're not. And now we're like, no, that's enough. I'm not going to take what I'm not anymore. I'm only going to have what I am.
Oh, so
Um,
now I'm in the bakery, and you're in front of me in line,
mm.
and we both leave with nothing.
Yeah.
Because I was about to say I'm having what she's having.
Or we leave with everything.
You know, there you go.
Or else
So
we just we stay in the shop. They sell us to the next person. I don't know. Mm,
I think we're progressing nicely in our discussion along the lines of where Nadaga was going. So these characters, you've basically got Ribu and Nadaga. And Ribu, the really blessed uncle, who's not limited by having to parent, right? And Nadaga is like my brother. He's sitting at Ribu's feet. And I got to go to the Society of Abidance in Truth, the Sat Temple in Santa Cruz, where there's one really ginormous wood carving that's meant to represent Ribu,
mm,
and there's a smaller one of Nadaga. So Nadaga is sort of putting his hand over his mouth, and one of the Sangha there explained to me that that's Nadaga stilling his mind. So he's listening over and over and over again to Ribu, he's saying himself, guided by love, sharing what Shiva has told him.
mm,
And at the end at the um, of the song, Nadaga gets it, and we're just so happy for him.
mm.
And he's got a verse here. Let's see. I think really says it. Mhm. I think I can't limit it to one verse. I have to read two if you'll
Sure.
let me. All right.
Please, please do.
So
Mhm,
I'm skipping all the way ahead to chapter 40, and I think it's so important to cover these later chapters, and we have them recorded in total, so they're there
mm,
on YouTube for people. But
mm,
um, this is Nadaga saying, blemishless Sadguru, true Guru. Should I now, in dichotomy as you and I, bow to you with reverence? I shall be doing a distinct disservice to myself by introducing a delimitation. Is not the idea of difference the foundation for fear? Supreme Guru, hence on inquiry, I cannot see any courtesy or service I can offer. All being ever one consciousness, the best thing is to be totally silent, motionless as a stone, without delusion or illusory concept, fixed idea, or doubt, difference, imagination, in the knowledge of that, the void, firmly remaining by oneself alone. It does not seem to me the part of wisdom to generate any ideas of difference as previously.
Will you read that last sentence again?
It does not seem to me the part of wisdom to generate any ideas of difference as previously.
Mm, that was good. Mm. But that's like a simple thing that you can, if you take those words and you could just take that and apply it to your life, and it would have a huge impact. You know, anytime you notice your mind trying to differentiate, make different, like something is better than something else. One person is better than another person. One person is better than you know, or whatever way. That I'm sure there's a million ways that we differentiate, and it comes in loads of different ways, not just saying things are different, but also even judgment. Like judgment is a kind of a differentiation. And I'm sure many other things in the mind as well. But that's like one thing that we can actually, if we chose to take that as a teaching, that would have a huge impact in our life. And not just an impact like in what we say, but it actually, it's almost like because it's like you're not doing something. So you're just taking something away that we're doing. So what does it leave when you take that away? It leaves a more whole state. I'm using the word again, but like it leaves a more kind of like wholeness because it's the mind that differentiates and the heart doesn't. So really, if you recognize anytime you're differentiating and you choose, oh no, like in a dagger, you choose like in a dagger to say, no, I recognize that that's not wise to differentiate. So I'm going to drop that. Then automatically you're back in your heart again.
Mhm,
Not back because you haven't left your heart, but automatically you're recognizing and experiencing your heart again.
mm.
Because that's what all of this spirituality is about. It's not about becoming your heart or becoming your true self or becoming Brahman. It's really just about it is kind of about experiencing it, recognizing it, but recognizing it on an experiential level. Because even to just recognize it, see if it's not experiential, that means it's kind of in the mind just, but it becomes more experiential as we live it, you know, because let's say, as an example, if we were differentiate, let's say we recognize the truth of who we are, okay, just through inquiry or through just listening to the song of Ribu, ideally. um, so you recognize that, but then there's a situation that arises that your mind is differentiating. So to just hold it as an idea that like, oh, okay, well, different, well, you could do that as well. No, but anyway, so you kind of go with the differentiation, you know, then you're not really um like you use the word imbibing. You're not really experientially living what you recognized. And I think that's like it's not enough for us if we don't do that. Like I think something in us really wants to live it and be it. It's not enough to just know it in our minds. And
Yeah,
know it in our minds really means that the recognition is sometime in the past.
mm,
Because once the recognition is now. Because the thing is, I was saying to someone the other day, recognizing like the recognition and being is the same thing. You
mm,
can't really it's not like you're here and you're looking over there. You know, I recognize over there, that's what I am. It's not like that because you're not over there, like the way we were saying that. You're not that, you're this. You know, it's right here. So you're being, you're being in that same place of what you're recognizing. You're recognizing what your being is, really. That's really it. Like you're recognizing what your being is. Like we all know that we're being, but the problem is that we take this being to be a body mind, and that's a mistake. So the exploration is actually just looking at our direct experience, and what we really see is that we're not a body mind. Like I was saying to Eshan the other day, I don't know what I said to him actually, to be honest, but it was later on in the day, and he shut his eyes because I think I was saying shut your eyes like earlier when I was talking to him. So he shut his eyes and he was like, "No, no, I'm not in the hand. I'm not in my hand." It's so cute, but like it's like that because I don't know what he was doing. He's probably just playing, but it's like that. Like so, if you're actually looking, you're saying like, "Where am I in this body?" Because we think we're the body at first, so we start there. So where am I? And it's very simple, have to be very simple with Eshan, like I said. It's like, am I in my fingers? No. You're kind of close in that. So then you might bring your attention. You might feel like you're in your face or something, in your eyes, and behind my eyes. But like your direct experience is always like, no, like I'm not there. Like that's in front of me. So it's just kind of you're bringing your attention back inwards, inwards, inwards. Because that's what I was
The
telling him, sorry, I was just telling him like that, like I can't really tell you what you find, like, but like it's true the looking that you'll like I don't know what the word is, but that's the magic, you could say.
mm, the gap or the wide open space kind of appears when I during inquiry ask right then, well, to whom is this occurring?
Mm,
And there's just spacious, open,
mm,
cognizant emptiness.
mm,
And it really does seem like, of all of our sessions together, that so many of the most profound moments were, in between the verses, or,
mm, mm,
certainly while watching recording after the fact, to have you close your eyes and just kind of hang there in
mm,
the empty space with the really profound meaning sort of
mm,
looking for its way home, or
yeah.
just, indescribably beautiful.
Mm,
And I'm just, we talk about emotions. So I'm just filled with so much, love, gratitude, devotion. Um,
mm,
that the desire is just to go and give this away. I'll go and find Sarjana and I'll put my face next to hers
yeah.
right after one of our meetings, and
Oh, that's nice.
she'll she'll get quiet and then start to giggle because it's so
Yeah,
palpable. It's
that's
beautiful to try to give this away.
that's the kind of great thing about this, like just recognizing your true nature. It's like you don't even have to even try to do anything. Just like by your just being, it's like it's ideally, and it's infectious, like so to just be with someone who's totally at peace in themselves. We can feel that. We don't have to know anything. You don't have to say anything. Many of us try to share it with words, but sometimes that just makes it less
That's
shared.
grace. That's grace, isn't it? Yeah,
Eh,
yeah, beautiful. And so, for anyone, for any normal human being, the question can come, well,
mm,
how do I do that? How
yeah.
do I do that?
How do you do what?
How do I stop trying? How do I in
Mm,
create the absence of effort such that
mm,
I can drop into my heart and stay there?
yeah. I feel like to just tune into that, like, so that which asks that question, that means that there's some inspiration in you to want it, you know. So that is your heart. that inspiration, that's a call from your heart, like the how to. So rather than wanting the answer, like to be with that feeling of where the question comes from. I feel like that's really powerful, and it can show up in many different ways in your life, but it's like that's God calling you, and maybe there will be an answer sometimes. The right answer might come to a question. I think if a question is really asked, really honestly, there is always an answer almost immediately. But maybe sometimes we have to wait for an answer. But really, I feel like mostly to just tune into the inspiration, because what's inspiration? It's in spirit, and that's what spirit for me just means Brahman or God or that or this or heart of being, so if you're inspired and you're in spirit, then you're already with that. So that question, how can I do it? I know it can sometimes feel like kind of pleading, it can feel like, you can have that sense of like, I'm separate from God or something, and I want to be close to God. But to just be with that feeling, I feel like it's enough. Like that question is God pulling you inside. Yeah. And you just follow whatever appears. Like I know I had that question. you know, I had that kind of question. Like how to really experientially know that everything is one and that I'm not separate from God. And the answer here was I started listening to Mooji's teachings, both Mooji and Ananda. And really it's not like they said anything new. They didn't say anything new, but maybe they said it from a place that they knew it. So it's not really their words necessarily, but their presence, so both their words and their presence are the where for me, like the answer to that question. But like for somebody else, it could be something different. I don't think it has to even appear necessarily in the form of a master, or someone who takes the role of a master. Let's say it could be anything. Like it could just kind of something can just wake up inside you, just like let go. You just let go into that question or that inspiration. Like that's all. And actually it happens to us all the time in many moments. I think it's more just like something. I think what the benefit of hearing a master saying it, it's like they only say what you know already. So they're actually confirming your already known experience. So you're going, yeah, because this whole world is like almost telling us opposite. As soon as we're born, we're told, oh, you're so cute, you're this, you're that, you're whatever you are. Like, so the world is telling us that we're all these different things. But then, like, someone comes along and tells us the truth of what we really experience inside ourselves. So then we're like, yes. And it's not just one person. Maybe one person is enough, but like often it's like many. But one sometimes we have a kind of an affinity to. So we're able to accept their words. So for me, like Muji and Ananta, somehow there's a love. I think when you have a love for someone that you can't make that, it just somehow life gives you love. So you can hear their words much easier than you're open to what they say. And what they say is it's just confirming and affirming what we already know. And that's true for everybody. And maybe sometimes that can be like the wind blowing if you're open enough. The wind blows on something and you can say, yes, it can be like that. Mhm.
I would say that,
Mhm.
for myself, I've accomplished the intention of this particular session, and it was very much,
Mhm.
let Amba speak,
Huh.
yes, yes, reflect, but also bring forward enough verses to give people the flavor of Song of Rebu, and it certainly feels
Mm.
from this side that that's been done.
Yeah. This meeting has been a very just reflection of the whole time really reading the Song of Ribu. Isn't it? It's just really nice to, we're basically in the presence of Ribu.
Mhm.
Although maybe if we were in the presence of Ribu, we wouldn't talk quite so much.
Yeah.
I would, I wouldn't. Like if we were in the physical presence, I'd be like, oh, like even when I'm in the physical presence of an anta, I get very like, it's because I feel so much love. I get very like, oh, like I do talk sometimes, but I feel kind of like floored by love or something sometimes.
Mm.
But then again, the longer you spend in that presence, you kind of open up then, and then you get more comfortable to just speak as
Mm.
well. Hmm.
My face is almost hurting. I'm smiling so much. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So definitely, I do recommend the Song of Rubu to anybody who's interested in
Yeah. Well, this isn't a profit-making endeavor
it.
here. There are the recordings on YouTube.
Mm,
People can just search for Amba
mhm.
Love Ribu, Ribhu,
Do you
and
think that would
see.
pop up? Well, Amber Love is now my channel.
Yeah, yeah, then people will find it easily.
Yeah.
And also, Society for Abidance in Truth is
Mm,
responsible for the publication of the Tamil version, and that's available
mm,
on at their website also, but also on Amazon.
yeah. So I don't want to say goodbye.
Oh, this is far from goodbye. You offer a weekly silent sitting.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to be in your time zone in
Oh, that's
less
true.
than a month.
Oh yeah.
So it's see you next month, I think.
Oh, wonderful.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So what time is that usually? Oh yeah, 11:15.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
great.
Sarjana will join me too, I think.
All right. That'll
Yeah,
be nice. So tell me, what date is your flight?
the 30th.
30th of March.
Yeah,
Great. I'll be thinking of you.
yeah.
It is pretty cool that we read the whole Song of Ribu, like the whole thing, because it's really big. Like it's like this big. Like I usually don't really finish anything. I'm not the most disciplined person in the world. Or I don't know. I part of me wants to say committed, but I am committed. I think that there's a difference between disciplined and committed because I'm very committed to the truth, you could say. But I'm not very disciplined usually in a particular type of practice. Like you must do this at 9 o'clock every day. And I'm glad that like the teachings that I'm attracted to, because there's something for everyone, that it's not really saying that you have to do something all the time. Well, I mean, it kind of is. So I do believe that you have to just be present every moment. So that's like, maybe that's more than a practice. Even, I don't
You laid down you laid down the rhythm really nicely in two
know.
ways. One, you recorded chapters one and two, just solo.
Mm,
You went all the way through. Some comments along the way, absolutely beautiful. That's where I would suggest that someone start.
mm,
But also, we had you offered up 15-minute meetings. We met once, and I think by the end of the second one, you were saying we should meet more often. And
mm. Oh
I
yeah.
was I was I and I think you paused because my face had changed and I was almost bringing up tears or something.
Hmm.
I just said that makes me so happy. I'm almost gonna cry.
Hmm.
And yeah, just thinking of um, not you the person, but
Mm,
the love part of Amba Love
mm,
has really just sort of fed or watered
mm,
something inside that's really growing beautifully. So
mm. It's really great to recognize. I'm just saying this now as an affirmation to myself, kind of. It's really great to recognize that there really is no you, the person, even. Like,
ah,
because even you, the person, like, let's say you, the person, okay, because you're familiar with yourself, but you know yourself, like, if you're really honest with yourself, you, the person, is very empty, isn't it? Like, it's nothing. It's just a kind of, you, the person, is like a set of sensations, ideas, you know. I know there's a body that looks like a particular thing, like if someone sees that body, they'll be like, Steve. But not that, but just like the person as a thing, it's very like it is very empty and nothing. So even all the persons are the same, so like as if you experience whatever you experience when you think of me, that's just also something empty and something that appears. I don't know, it's good to, I think, to recognize that, and also to just not take ourselves too seriously as a person. It's not that we're like not a person, like, because I think we use ideas. I remember hearing Muji saying something like, okay, I'm terrible at remembering things, but the essence of what he said was that we can use ideas. It's not that like, you recognize that everything is an idea and then therefore all ideas are gone. Like we can use ideas. So of course we use ideas of a person and we have to kind of pretend to be a person a little bit. But just like inwardly, we know what everyone is. And like all persons are really emptiness. It's the same thing. Emptiness is just another word for Brahman. I'm just
Mm.
affirming again. Yeah, where everything is Brahman. And I feel like the more time goes on, whatever teaching you're with, it doesn't matter maybe what it is, but you start to see that teaching more and more and more. And that teaching opens up to you what it means more and more and more. And maybe there's no end to that. So whatever your teaching is, so it could be the Song of Ribu, or it could be a particular teacher that's appearing in your life, or it could be anything at all, whatever your kind of teaching is. But if you stay with that, then yeah, the meaning of that grows in us
Mm.
and develops in us. Yeah, I like that, it grows in us. So whatever we think we understand from anything right now, like in some other amount of time, if we're really honest and open, then it'll probably mean something different at another point in time.
And having, laid down on YouTube the one chapter that you recorded from many years ago, and now
Mm,
all of these chapters, it's sort
mm.
of like there's that is waiting for anyone who decides that, oh, Song of Ribu, that's right one. That's for me.
Yeah,
So
it's
there's
our
yeah,
gift to whoever wants it.
there you go.
Well, it's from Ribu,
Exactly,
from Ribu
exactly.
and Nadaga.
Yes,
Yes.
indeed, indeed.
Thank you for letting me talk so much. You're very patient. You're very patient to be with me all these weeks. Thank you.
My pleasure.
I think you'd be a better podcaster than me. You've got a great podcast voice. You're very prepared, though. I'm just like, doo.
I'm just another pretty voice, still developing the depth. Mm.
So I wish you a wonderful day. What time is it now? About 8 or 9?
Yeah, it's about
Mm,
9 on this side.
yeah. Thank you. May beatitude be with you always. Be with you and as you.
Amen.
Amen.
See you in a few weeks.
Yes, I look forward to your presence. It'll be a great surprise.
Great.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye. Love you.
Love you too.